What if I told you that Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history, witnessed more than a century of secrets, scandals, and world-changing events? Few people know the most surprising and defining moments of her reign, moments that quietly shaped the course of the modern world. From her unexpected rise to the throne, to challenges that tested the very fabric of the British Empire. Join us as we gently unfold the inspiring life of a queen who redefined an era. Welcome to Legacy Narratives, where every story is a journey through history, wisdom, and memories worth remembering. The news arrived not in a palace, but in a Kenyan hunting lodge perched high in the clouds. It was February 6, 1952. Princess Elizabeth, just 25 years old, was standing in for her ailing father on a Commonwealth tour. She had been watching baboons at a waterhole from the treetops of the Treetops Hotel only hours before. Now, the world had irrevocably shifted. Her father, King George VI, a man of quiet duty who had never sought the crown, was dead. In that remote, breathtaking corner of Africa, surrounded by the promise of a new day, the young princess who had left Britain as a heir became the sovereign who would return as a queen. Her reign, the longest in British history, would not be defined by grand political power, but by something far more enduring, a profound, unshakable sense of duty, a quiet resilience that would become the steady heartbeat of a nation and a symbol of continuity through 7 decades of unprecedented change. Her early life was one of privilege, but not one originally destined for the throne. Born Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor on April 21, 1926, she was the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York, later King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. Her childhood, spent at 145 Piccadilly and Royal Lodge in Windsor, was a surprisingly sheltered and cosy one, educated at home alongside her younger sister, Margaret. Her world was loving and stable, a small bubble within the grand apparatus of the monarchy. The abdication of her uncle, King Edward VIII, in 1936 to marry Wallis Simpson shattered that bubble. It thrust her reluctant father onto the throne and placed a shy, 10-year-old girl directly in the line of succession. She was now the heir presumptive. From that moment, her education shifted. Her formidable mother oversaw her instruction in history, literature, and the complex nuances of constitutional law. She was tutored by the finest minds, including the Vice Provost of Eton College, Henry Martin, who instilled in her a deep understanding of the British Constitution. The lessons were not merely academic, they were a forging of character. The Second World War further shaped her. Unlike royal children of the past, she and Margaret remained in Britain, spending the war mostly at Windsor Castle. In 1940, at just 14, she made her first radio broadcast on the BBC's Children's Hour, addressing the children of the Commonwealth and the nation's evacuees. "We are trying to do all we can to help our gallant sailors, soldiers, and airmen," she said, her voice clear and steady. "And we are trying, too, to bear our own share of the danger and sadness of war." At 18, she insisted on joining the Auxiliary Territorial Service, training as a driver and mechanic, a powerful symbol of a modern princess sharing in the nation's burdens. It was also during this time that her relationship with a handsome Greek and Danish prince, Philip Mountbatten, blossomed from a childhood crush into a deep love. They married in November 1947 in a splendid yet austere ceremony at Westminster Abbey, a post-war Britain still rationing fabric and food. The union provided her with a rock of support, a partner who would, as she later said, be her strength and stay for over 73 years. Their early family life with their first 2 children, Charles and Anne, was as normal as their position would allow, a period of relative peace before the weight of the crown descended. Her accession in 1952 began what we now know as the New Elizabethan Age. Her coronation in June 1953 was a moment of national renewal, the first to be televised, bringing the ancient, sacred ceremony into the humble living rooms of her subjects. In her coronation speech, she made a pledge that would define every day of the next 7 decades. "I have in sincerity pledged myself to your service, as so many of you are pledged to mine. Throughout all my life and with all my heart I shall strive to be worthy of your trust." And the world she promised to serve was changing at a breathtaking pace. Her reign saw the final dismantling of the British Empire and its evolution into the Commonwealth of Nations. She navigated this delicate transition with immense skill and personal dedication, becoming the pivotal link holding the diverse family of nations together. She developed deep, respectful relationships with leaders like South Africa's Nelson Mandela and India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, understanding that her role was to connect, not to command. The challenges were constant. The 1990s were particularly tumultuous, a period the Queen herself referred to as an annus horribilis, or horrible year, In 1992, a devastating fire tore through Windsor Castle, and the marriages of 3 of her 4 children, Charles, Anne, and Andrew, publicly collapsed under intense media scrutiny. The intense, often cruel, public dissection of the monarchy following the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997, presented perhaps the greatest crisis for the institution in the 20th century. The Queen's initial instinct, to protect her grieving grandsons in the quiet of Balmoral, was perceived as cold and out of touch by a public in mourning. It was a rare moment where her unwavering adherence to protocol seemed to falter against the tide of public emotion. Yet, she adapted. She returned to London, addressed the nation live on television in a display of empathy, and allowed the Union flag to fly at half-mast over Buckingham Palace, a profound break with tradition that acknowledged the people's will. Through every event, from the social revolutions of the 1960s to the Troubles in Northern Ireland, from the Falklands War to the dawn of the digital age and the recent global pandemic, the Queen remained a constant. Her yearly Christmas broadcasts became a touchstone of calm reflection. Her routine was legendary, the red government boxes reviewed daily, her meticulous reading of state papers, her meetings with 15 prime ministers, from the wartime titan Winston Churchill to the young modernizer Liz Truss, just days before her death. She advised, she warned, and she encouraged, always strictly within the constitutional bounds of a political neutral, her vast experience a silent guide to successive governments. In her later years, she became a global grandmother figure, her image one of reliability and devotion. Her sense of duty never waned. Well into her 90s, she maintained a grueling schedule of public engagements, her brightly coloured outfits a beacon of consistency. The Platinum Jubilee in 2022 was a magnificent, heartfelt national thank you for 70 years of service, a celebration of a life lived not for herself, but for an idea of nationhood and stability. Queen Elizabeth II passed away peacefully on September 8, 2022, at her beloved Balmoral Castle, surrounded by her family. The outpouring of grief and respect was global and immense, a testament to a life of service that transcended nationality, politics, and generation. The legacy of Elizabeth II is not found in laws passed or political battles won, for she wielded no political power. It is etched in the quieter, deeper material of human life. It is a legacy of duty, above all else, of resilience in the face of relentless change, of a promise made by a young woman and kept, unconditionally, for a lifetime. She was the steady hand on the tiller, the calm in the storm, the embodiment of the motto she chose for herself, a simple, powerful declaration that would guide every one of her 70 years on the throne: I serve. In a fractious and often uncertain world, her unwavering presence was a comfort, a thread of continuity connecting a glorious past to an ever-evolving future, leaving behind a timeless example of quiet, dignified, and devoted service. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history and inspiration. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more timeless stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of today's story touched you the most? Please leave a comment below. Until next time, keep the legacy alive.